No.
So, yeah, anyway.
Listen. You know
Take it
We're
away.
at Parshas Chukas this week. Next week is also Yud Gimel Tammuz. And we're the Shabbos after Gimel Tammuz, and this Farbrengen is dedicated to the Nishmas.
Chaya Risa Bas Baruch Bendit Wenger.
Shouldn't be any more sorrow.
So when you say Hakam, when is
Hakam is only the children.
only what?
Only the children.
The what?
Children.
Refer to their mother?
Refer to during the first year of
Okay.
passing, a child refers to his.
Gotcha.
Well, anyway, okay. We're talking about Parshas Chukas. Parshas Chukas, it says, Zois Chukas HaTorah. This is the law of the Torah, and the famous Targum says, Do Gezerah Seiraisa. This is the decree of the Torah. And the implication is, as is understood from a number of sources, that there's certain things that happen in life that we don't understand. It's a decree. Chukah Chakak, right? The famous story with when the Eibusher is showing Moshe Rabbeinu, the Rabbi Akiva he sees Rabbi Akiva, and he tells the Eibusher, maybe she give the Torah through him. He sees Rabbi Akiva is greater in Torah even than him. And then he sees how Rabbi Akiva is being combed with iron combs. And Moshe Rabbeinu can't understand it. I hope I'm saying the story right. The Eibusher says, that's the way it is. Shtoik, be quiet. This is a decree that came up in my thought. I can't explain it to you. It's beyond your understanding. You have to accept it, and that's it. So we have, from one hand, in many things in life, we encounter aspects that we don't understand. It's a gezerah seiraisa, certain things that don't make any sense. Why is it that these things happen? It didn't happen. But on the other hand, we have to realize that we can't go with intellect alone. Intellect itself is extremely poor. And the Rebbe says, as a mimer I saw today, the Rebbe says that the Yidden were maktim nasel v'nishma. Before you understand, your understanding has to be based on your acceptance of something which is beyond understanding. The Rebbe went through, as a mimer this time of the year, get from Mitzrayim to Siyat Shalom and Zayin. The Rebbe was discussing the whole idea of Golus is beyond understanding. You know, even though we know that, it says that all the future good that we will enjoy when Mashiach will come will make up for all the terrible suffering we suffered now. But nevertheless, right now, it's a real suffering, and it's in a certain sense, it's an eternal thing. It's some, certain things that happen in Golus. It's hard to understand how, it will be transformed to good, but it's a negative thing that happens. But a Jew is maktim nasal nishma. It's true, we don't understand, but we serve the Eibusher nevertheless. But the idea of a chukah means, there's another point here. If you go with intellect, which ties with Yud Beis Tammuz, if Jewish people don't go with intellect, they don't go based on things that make sense. Why? If they would go only by things that make sense, we would not be here today. According to logic, according to statistics, according to data analysis, the Jewish people should not have. First of all, Yitzchak would not have been born. The Jewish people would not have survived 2,000 years of exile and persecution. Many things throughout history, we wouldn't have survived. Spiritually as well, if not for the fact that we're Am Kshayodah, we're a stubborn nation. We persist and we have self-sacrifice even when it seems that logically everything is lost. If not for that, we wouldn't have made it. So the idea of Chukas tells us that we cannot go based on logical. A person can't say, let me make a cheshbon. Is it worth it for me? Am I going to see success in this thing? Is it worth it for me to do this mitzvah? Is it not worth it for me to do this mitzvah? Maybe, or to go a little bit deeper, a person could say, I'll do Torah mitzvahs, but I'll use my intellect. I'll make a cheshbon. What things are more important, right? When you open up a business, you have different goals. You have to identify your primary goals. What are my most important things? So I'll focus on that. I put money, I'll put effort into that. A poor person comes knocking at my door. He wants $10, $18. This is an immaterial thing. If I give him, I won't give him. Does it really make a difference? Small things that come our way, that logically they seem insignificant compared to those goals that we set up for our lives, which seem in our eyes very important and very valuable and accomplishing. So Yid has to know that Chukas HaTorah Jew, his connection to the Eibusher is not based on intellect. It's based on complete nullification. He has to use his intellect, 100%. The Eibusher does not want a bunch of robots. But the fact that he uses his intellect itself is because the Eibusher tells him to. He's not doing it because he's using his intellect, that his intellect has to agree to the fact that he has to fulfill what the Eibusher wants. No, the other way around. Because he has to fulfill what the Eibusher wants, the Eibusher wants him to use his brains, he uses his brains. But the point is that his Yesod, his foundation, is based on Kabbalah. So this fits in with the Avodah, the whole story of Yud Beis Tammuz. If we think about it, if we ever even dream of being in the Frierdiker Rebbe's shoes, it's I don't think anyone...
What day next week is it?
Wednesday.
It's Tuesday, Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday. That's why it was... this was the first... Anyway, Chalifim. So the story of Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz, if you read, for example, what the Frierdiker Rebbe went through. Today there's a number of books in English about it. The Prince in Prison, and Heroic Struggle. A few books, and even just you read the Frierdiker Rebbe's diary about the time. The Frierdiker Rebbe's not only self-sacrifice, his lack of fear, the fact that he stood up and he was ready to pull through, and he writes how he's in prison. He made a complete decision, an absolute decision that he's not going to give any credibility to the officers. He's going to look at them as if they don't exist. He'll run his own show in prison. And he was beaten for it. His whole story is at the end he prevailed, but he
didn't they fall down the stairs?
Yeah, they
with
threw him
belt,
down the stairs. He suffered the rest of his life from it. Yeah, but he prevailed. He made a thing that he's not going to.
Other than the fact that he went out of prison, did his sacrifice actually preserve Yiddishkeit?
Of course it did. For 70 years of communist persecution, the only thing that kept Yiddishkeit alive was the Frierdiker Rebbe. And not only that, in a certain sense, those few years that there were Chadorim that were open, so it kept. So even if later a lot of these people weren't able to continue on to do anything, but when communism finally fell, a lot of people knew that they were Yidden, or had some connection based on the fact that they were kids. They went to Cheder for a year, whatever it was. It preserved Yiddishkeit. But the bottom line is, if Frierdiker Rebbe didn't make cheshbon, this made absolutely no sense. Besides the fact
it wasn't a cheshbon to keep Yiddishkeit.
Of course, it was a cheshbon to keep Yiddishkeit, but according to logic, that it would succeed, that it was worth it to send a teacher to teach. And that teacher is shot, and then you send another one in this place, and that guy is going to get shot if we sent to Siberia. It's first of all, it's taking a huge achrayus. Hapi Torah, you have a right to set someone up to have Mesiras Nefesh in such a case. It's a whole question. Furthermore, does it make sense? Maybe, for example, a certain case of the Frierdiker Rebbe, certain activities he could have done. Maybe what a person would say, let me make a long-term goal. If I wouldn't do things that anger the government, and I would focus my goals on other areas of Yiddishkeit, which the government is not so antagonistic about. Perhaps I will be able to survive longer. I'll be able to accomplish whatever it was.
There's using the government.
Chinuch was the main thing that they were against. In other words, there was the main thing that the Frierdiker Rebbe was fighting was chinuch. It's opening up, having mikvahs open, also these things. But in other words, it was. If he would have wanted to make shiurim for elderly people, it wouldn't have been such an build up they wanted to build up the new generation of loyal Soviet citizens. So the point is that the Frierdiker Rebbe didn't make cheshbon. The Rebbe goes through a whole thing about with Kastrama. He was really meant to go a few days earlier, but then they wanted that he should have to travel on Shabbos, and Frierdiker Rebbe said he's going back to prison, even though his life would be in danger. He didn't make cheshbonis because the connection of Yid to the Eibusher is you serve the Eibusher without cheshbonis. If you make cheshbonis, then that is not what Judaism is based on. There's a story, I said it here I think a number of times, but it's good to say it anyway. There was Rabbi Zusha of Anipoli. He lived in Anipoli, I guess, wherever he lived at the time, and there was someone that living in that city that used to support him, and he saw, why did he support him? He saw that he helped him out a few times, and he realized that he had great success in his business afterwards, right? So he decided, it's a good investment. He sees a return on investment. So used to, Rabbi Zusha was very poor, he was extremely poor. He would help him out. One time he goes to Rabbi Zusha's house, he wants to give him money, whatever it was, he wanted to speak to him. He's not home. He asks his wife where he is. He said he's by his Rebbe Mezrich, or wherever the Maggid of Mezrich was at the time. So this person was a businessman. So he said, hold on a second. If I give money to Reb Zusha, I make so much more money back. If I would give money to Reb Zusha's teacher, how much more so I'll get back?
Straight
get
to
back
the top.
even more.
Straight to the top.
Yeah, why should I invest in the subsidiaries? Let me go to the top. So he goes to Mezrich, to the Mag, and he starts giving him money. But lo and behold, he sees that everything starts going down the drain. Not only he's not making money, he's losing. He goes to the Maggid and he says, he went to the Abzush and he said, I don't understand. When I gave to you, I was successful. Now that I gave to your teacher, I'm losing. He said, listen, very simple. When you gave to me, you didn't make any cheshbonis. You saw that I'm a pious Jew that needs money and you helped me. So David didn't make any cheshbonis with you. He didn't make any calculations with you. So you wanted money. You do whatever, he gave you money. When you started making calculations, why should I give Abzush? Let me give the Maggid of Mezrich, I'll make more money. So from heaven, they started making calculations with you also. Are you really deserving of the money? And they realized very fast that you're not. So you're not making anything.
So it's better to just give.
So it's better not to make. First of all, it's mida keneged mida, right? The Gemara says kol ha'ma'avil al midosim avirum la'kol shav. The story in the Gemara that there was a certain sage that he was very sick, and it's live feed. There was a certain sage who was very sick, and they thought that he was about to go, and he survived. He came back to himself. So they asked him what happened. So he says he went up. He had a near-death experience, whatever you want to call it. And he said that in the heavenly court they ruled. He said he was someone that he was always ma'avil on the day. So he never held. If somebody did something to me, forgave. He always looked past what other people did to him. So from heaven they said that since he looked past what other people did to him, so from heaven they'll look past whatever reasons might have been relevant why he shouldn't make it, they'll ignore it, they'll bring him back down. So definitely there's the concept of mida keneged mida. If a person serves the Eibusher without cheshbonos, without making calculations, from heaven they serve him back. But the essence of the Jewish person's connection with Eibusher is expressed in serving the Eibusher without calculations. That is why we know that in mitzvahs there's different aspects. There's mitzvahs that are understood, that are rational. There's mitzvahs that are not rational. So a person thinks, without learning Chassidus, a person thinks that which mitzvahs should a person have the most enjoyment in fulfilling. You should have the most enjoyment in fulfilling those mitzvahs that are rational, right? And you shouldn't kill, you shouldn't steal, right? These sound like good, nice things. Of course you would want to do it, but if you learn Chassidus, you realize that the true essence of a mitzvah is a super rational source. Because that's the Eibusher's will. If you're only not killing someone because it makes sense to you not to kill, it wouldn't take long to convince you in certain cases that it would make sense to kill certain people. So if you, however, the ultimate fulfillment of mitzvahs, that is the expression of the Jew's connection with the Eibusher, and specifically when he serves the Eibusher, in those things that don't make sense. Because in this point, that brings out his real connection. When his intellect is down, when he doesn't rationalize it, then that is when his real connection comes out. So this is why the word Chukas comes from the word Chakika. Chakika means engraving. What's the difference between a written word, something that you write on a piece of paper, and when you engrave something in stone? You write something on a piece of paper, so the ink and the paper technically are two separate things. You could erase them, you could separate them. When you engrave something in the stone, it becomes part of the stone itself. So when a person serves the Eibusher based on intellect, it's like ink written on a paper. It makes sense, it forms nice words and images and letters. But at the end of the day, it's inseparable. There's me and there's the concepts, there's the things that I'm fulfilling. However, when a person serves the Eibusher in those things that are super rational, so that means it's coming from a level that it's not based on my intellect. It must be that I have a connection with the Eibusher, which is this is who I am, that even though it doesn't make any sense, I'm still doing it anyway. This is a true connection that you didn't have with the Eibusher. So this is also the connection with the story of Yudbein with Gimel Tammuz, the self-sacrifice that the previous Rebbe had, because in Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice is also something which stems from a part of a Jew which is super rational. So what does this all mean to us? It means to us, first of all, that we have to realize that our connection with the Eibusher is deeper than our intellect. And even when things don't make sense to us, or it doesn't make, person might not even make sense to a person that it's worthwhile for him to do a mitzvah. Maybe he says, what's the point of this mitzvah that I'm going to do today? But no, he has this connection with the Eibishter that is eternal. It's engraved. This is who he is. The fact that in his mind he looks at himself that he's very distant and very far and doesn't see the purpose of the mitzvah that he's about to do, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't take away from the fact that he has this connection with the Eibishter. But there's another thing we learn about that there's one more point I'll finish off with. One of the most powerful, the mitzvah, Paradum itself, is whether there's the ashes of the red cow which purify a person from the impurity of the dead. What's the idea of death? The idea of death means that the body and the soul get severed. The soul leaves the body. Since the soul is part of godliness, the soul is alive, is eternal. Once the soul leaves the body, so now the body is dead, and spiritually that causes a very severe level of impurity. Spiritually as well, the idea of spiritual death means that a person is disconnected from the Eibishter. So a person could say that if I'm completely disconnected from the Eibishter, I feel completely spiritually dead, unmotivated, or I'm not doing anything, I have done so many things to sever my connection. How is it possible for me to, be connected with Hashem? So that is why the Eibishter tells us that even for the worst form of impurity, there's still an eitzah. There's a way how to do it. There's the red heifer there's the ashes of the Parah Adumah, which I'm not going to go through the whole thing. At one point means every Jew has the power of Mesiras Nefesh. He has the power of self-sacrifice. Every Moshe Rabbeinu was the one that made the red heifer. Moshe Rabbeinu was the leader of the generation, the tzaddik, the Rebbe of the generation. When being connected to the Rebbe, being connected to the tzaddik, you have the ability to once again reawaken your connection with Hashem. And even a Jew that thinks that he's dead, there's still hope. There's no such a thing. Even Tumas Meis has an atonement. So anyway, l'chaim, we should all merit to become connected with Eibishter, to experience redemption, salvation, and there shouldn't be any more Tumas Meis, any death, negative things in the world. The Rambam writes that Mashiach will come. Mashiach will make the 10th Parah Adumah, the 10th red heifer, to purify those people that came in contact with the dead, which also has the implication that death will cease, negative things will cease, and we should be reunited with Moshe Rabbeinu and all the tzaddikim, and we celebrated Beis Tammuz together with Mashiach. Take it from Yad Mamash.
Amen. Amen.